My name is Jack Eklund. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters South Coast, and I'm also a member of the statewide League panel of moderators. I personally have recently retired after 22 years as town moderator in the town of Mattapoisett. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure that everyone is represented in our democracy. The League empowers voters and defends democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. The League is a membership organization open to all people who subscribe to its purpose and policies. The word women in the name of the organization is a legacy that pays tribute to the veterans of the women's suffrage movement who were the founders of the League over 100 years ago, and to the many women who inspire us all to make democracy work. This forum is part of our ongoing education efforts to help voters make informed decisions at the upcoming elections. We hope that over the course of this program, you will learn more about the candidates running for school committee and to serve as your town moderator. Stoughton's town election is on Tuesday, April 8th. And now on to the candidates forum. I'll start by explaining some of the procedures for the forum, which each candidate has received in advance. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. Opening statements will be done in alphabetical order, and closing statements will be done in reverse alphabetical order. The League has compiled the questions that I will ask, and every candidate will be asked the same questions. I will rotate the order of who answers a question first. The moderator, the time clock, and the candidates will be spotlighted on Zoom and always visible. The clock will change color with 15 seconds remaining. Please finish your sentence when you see the stop on the clock. If you continue speaking after the stop is visible, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker. Personal references about other candidates or specific people are out of order. As for the audience, this forum is being recorded. A recording will be available on StoughtonTV.com and Stoughton Media Access channels Comcast 9 and 107.3 HD and Verizon 28. For the Zoom audience, please mute yourself and remain muted. If you prefer, as an audience member, not to be seen, please turn off your video. We will now begin with our candidates for school committee. We invite the three candidates for the two school committee seats to present themselves. The order of questions will be random. The candidates are Ms. Jillian DeStefano, Mr. David Lurie, and Ms. Jen Sears. And Ms. DeStefano, you have 1 minute to give your opening statement. Oh. Can't hear you, Ms. DeStefano.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining tonight. My name is Jillian DeStefano, and I am running for the role of school committee member. I've had the privilege of calling Stoughton home for over 15 years. I moved here after meeting my husband, a proud, lifelong resident of this wonderful town. As a mother to my daughter Aria, who is currently in the third grade at South Elementary, I have a personal stake in our local education system. For the past 8 years, I have worked in the healthcare industry, where my role centers on ensuring compliance with state and federal regulations, navigating insurance billing guidelines, and most importantly, analyzing payments and denials. This experience has honed my skills in identifying discrepancies, investigating their causes, and developing effective solutions. With my background and passion for our community, I am eager to serve on the school committee as a voice for the parents and families of Stoughton. I believe it's essential to review our budgets critically and engage with our leadership to ensure we are providing the best possible education for our children. I look forward to answering your questions tonight and sharing how I can contribute to the ongoing success of our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. DeStefano. Mr. Laurie, you are up next. And if you...
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. And thank you to the League of Women Voters. Appreciate you inviting us here. I want to thank the other members who are candidates also running for the school committee. There's 2 seats open. I'm running for one of them. And I look forward to a very, very open discussion about all the issues involved for the schools. The background that I have is in the telecommunication industry. Publicly, I've been involved with leadership in the Boy Scouts. I've been involved with town meeting for about 15 years. I'm in my 9th year on the finance committee. I've worked in roles on the subcommittee for the school department. I've also been involved just throughout various things like the Stoughton Media Access. I'm on the board of directors there. So I've always been trying to give back to the community wherever I can. I think that the areas that motivated me to start running for the school committee position was a lot of changes going on in the town that have to do with a lot of financial matters that impact everybody in town, not just the families, but the infrastructure that comes around with the families that are involved with paying for many of the services that the schools get. So what I want to do is bring it all together so that everybody comes out ahead, not just an island as an oasis where everybody in the desert is sort of starved for trying to maintain the services in the town, but to make sure that everybody comes out on top with the way the services are delivered. And that's pretty much it. I started in town meeting, by the way, because of the master plan that was developed. And I just wanted to make sure that those great ideas that were discussed come to fruition without harming people who are on fixed income and low income. So many of the things I do are trying to do so and making sure that there's not a lot of mistakes and bad judgments made about how our tax money is spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. Ms. Sears?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Sears, and I was born and raised in Stoughton. I attended the South School, Stoughton Junior High School, and Stoughton High School, graduating in 1988. As a lifelong resident of Stoughton, I know how important our schools are, and I look forward to serving on the schools committee to ensure that education of Stoughton keeps improving and that our children are prepared to lead in the future. Most of my adult life has been on improving education and serving. Professionally, I am a middle school and high school history teacher. I've taught in various communities throughout Massachusetts and even overseas. Currently, I have a doctorate in education, and I work as a teacher coordinator for DYS. I've also been involved several roles in Stoughton. I'm a town meeting member. I'm on the Historical Commission, and I'm a member of the 300 Anniversary Club. I'm also the service unit leader for Girl Scouts, and I run a Girl Scout troop here in town. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having me here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. The first question will be posed to all 3 candidates, but we'll ask you to answer first, Ms. DeStefano. And the question is this. how do you plan to ensure that the Stoughton Public School District complies with federal laws such as the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which are designed to protect the rights of students with disabilities and guarantee equal access to education?
Thank you. When it comes to students with disabilities, we have to first look at our facilities to make sure that our facilities are ADA compliant. For one thing, we know that our South School is in desperate need of repair replacement that needs to be ADA compliant. I would also look at our budgets and take recommendations from our superintendent, Dr. Baeta, and the professionals in that matter to make sure that we are providing the appropriate opportunities as dictated by the law that we provide for our students who are on 504s, our students who are on IEPs, that we are meeting all their needs as required. And also, I really want to say that I'm an advocate for the parents and the families of Stoughton. When there's parents who need help and need resources for their children with disabilities, I do want to be a resource for them to help guide them to different avenues and different places that they can go to get the resources that they need. So I want to always be transparent and open to all the families so that they can, communicate and let us know if their needs are not being met.
Thanks, Ms. DeStefano. Mr. Lurie, the same question.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, on this topic, I think it's been kind of like a change. There's a lot of changes that are happening that are very, very confusing. There used to be where special ed was for people who had conditions that made it difficult and they needed accommodations in the classroom to get ahead. Then what happened is they started to expand that to become additional categories, things like social and emotional. Then they expanded it to English language learning. And those three buckets, I'm totally fine with having support services for them. It grew from about in the 600 student range from a population of under 4,000 students to an extra 200. So we're about 800 students in those three categories. What's pretty interesting, and I think that I'd like to see how everybody feels about this, which is the object of bringing low-income students into that same category. So instead of it just being special ed, now they've described it as high needs. A lot of those programs are developed in order to attract the grant money and the ADA compliance that you have to then have in place. But I've always wondered, what do they mean by that? You take the number from 800 all the way up to 2,200. That's a lot of students that you have to accommodate. And I don't understand the accommodations needed for people who are low income. And that's some of the things I'll be talking about throughout the rest of the night after I run out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Lurie. Ms. Sears.
I'm going to build on what Jillian said, and I think it's really important with special ed that we work with parents. I do think there are some improvements that can be made in the town. I think CPAC is an amazing, amazing group of parents in town that are working hard for special ed. High need students have been high need students. I've been a teacher for 28 years. That has not changed. ELL, I'm sorry, is not considered special needs. I sit in IEP meetings almost weekly with students. That is not considered. Many ELL students don't have special needs at all. They can speak 2 languages fluently and they're brilliant. But I do think that, special ed is important here in town, and we have to make sure that we're supporting parents and programs like CPAC do. And I think that any grant or money we can get to keep the students here in town and keep educating them here in town is great. I definitely think we could always use some more support staff, paras around special ed, definitely more counselors to help students who are in special ed, and to make sure. I was a special ed student. I was on an IEP. I have my doctorate in education. So just because you're on an IEP Doesn't mean you're high needs or something. Sometimes you just need a little help. And a 504 or an IEP can help students with that. And I know in Stoughton that we have a good program and we continue this program. If we continue working with parents and teachers, I think they know best of what our students need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. The next question is in essence, in some ways, a follow-up to the first question. And Mr. Laurie, this will go to you first. What are your thoughts on the proposal to decline state and federal grants for high-need students to reduce class sizes and school expansion?
Thank you, Jack. First of all, there isn't the problem with class sizes. A lot of people have been talking about class sizes for years. Ever since I started on town meeting and finance committee, people said that, oh, you have to stay under 20. And we used to be very boastful about how great our class sizes. We used to talk about having 18 as the number. And it grew to 25 just since the surge that we've had in not just special ed, but in all the classes throughout the school system. Back in the earlier days when we had a large growth in population, our class sizes were also very large. I think what happens is that when you start going after the grants, and because, by the way, they used to try to come to the local tax money to try to increase the funding for each of the programs, and they found that we were spending more in local contributions than the state. Now, we had a surge of $14 million coming into the budget. And now what came in? We ended up with 200 more special needs and high needs students than we had before. We have class sizes of 25 instead of 18, and people seem to be okay with it. And I'm actually okay with the class sizes. I don't think that's going to hurt people. So I'm all for supporting the people who live here. If you start increasing a lot of state aid, you don't have as much control over what's happening locally. And I just want to make sure we have local control over the education system.
Thank you. That same question now to Ms. Sears.
We don't have school choice in Stoughton. So the only students we're educating in Stoughton are Stoughton students. It's nobody outside of Stoughton. I went to school here, I said all the way through. Class sizes were 25. As a teacher and educator for over 28 years, that's way too big. Especially since we now do a lot of more full inclusion, that students are in classrooms more. We do need to have smaller class sizes, and we need more support with teachers in those classes. And, why would anybody turn down state or federal money? If as a teacher, I can't tell you how much I spend every year out of my own pocket to make sure that my students have everything they need in the classroom. If I could get some money to help with that, that would be amazing. And I know anything we need, especially if you have a student in special services who might need one little device that could make a class so different, why wouldn't we accept state and federal money to do that? State and federal money to decrease class sizes, bring more paras in, send more counselors, anything that's going to help our students. That should be our big concern. What can we do to help them? And if that's by accepting money from the state and federal government, I say take the money and make those kids and the teachers' lives so much better when they have money to use in their classrooms.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Ms. DeStefano, the same question.
Thank you. I really agree with Jen on this one. The focus here is that the issues that these children are residents of Stoughton. They live here. They're in our school system. We're going to take care of them and give them every opportunity, just like we would give every other child that lives here. With that being said, there are challenges in educating, especially with children who don't speak English or have traumatic backgrounds or have disabilities. The number one thing to do is treat these kids with compassion and provide the support to raise them up. When we lift these marginalized students, we lift our entire communities. These children are our future neighbors. They're our future coworkers. They're our future homeowners and taxpayers. By giving them the appropriate education and support, we are helping to create a flourishing community that we desire. And I do not see any reason why we wouldn't take grant and federal and state funding to help our kids. Those are our tax dollars we paid into the system that we're getting back to us to support our community and support our families and to support our children.
Thank you. The next question, which will be addressed to Ms. Sears first, is the Massachusetts School Building Authority funds approximately 20% of the proposed new schools. Their website states, quote, "Our mission, partner with Massachusetts communities to support the design and construction of educationally appropriate, flexible, sustainable, and cost-effective public school facilities," close quote. Do you believe the proposed new school design meets these parameters? If yes, why? If no, why not?
Thank you. Yes, I do think they meet those priorities. I think we're going to do many positive things by building this new school. First of all, by closing the south, which we know it has asbestos, roof leaks, we're just going to make the life for the kids that go to the south so much better when they're in a nice, clean school. I know the hallways they're designing are going to be much safer. God forbid Stoughton ever had an active shooting. I mean, we definitely would be safer that way. By also closing the Wilkins School, by making that a preschool, we lessen the school. So eventually, even though it's going to cost money to build a school, it's going to make it less at some point. This school also that they're building, which will hold about 500 students, we can add another floor on. So as our population keeps growing and growing, if it continues growing, we don't need to build a new school. We just would need to add a floor. And to me, that's the smartest thing going. Why we don't want to have to come in 10, 15, 20 years, think about a new elementary school. Dr. Baeta even said that if we build this, this will be it for the elementary schools for at least 50 years in this town. And so I can't see how anybody would vote no, because in the long run, if we go to modulars, we go to transportation, it's actually going to cost more in taxes than it would to build this school. This school is a great choice for Stoughton, and the kids at the South would benefit from this school so greatly.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Ms. DeStefano, same question.
Thank you. This is actually a question I'm really passionate about. I live in the South community. My daughter goes to the South school. Although she's not going to be able to attend the new school, I'm still very pro yes to this. And the reasons for that is like a lot of people say that this school is being overbuilt and is really flashy for this town. I want people to know that this building is built on budget. It is not flashy. It is a modern school. It is a 21st century school. We are 25 years into the 21st century. This is the school for our time. And like Jen said, it's going to last us at least 50 years. When we build this, we're going to get a modern elementary school that's going to have at least 500 student capacity. It's going to be funded by the MSBA, but with $47 million. The remaining funds will be funded by the town taxpayers, which averages about to be about $300 per taxpayer per year. This will allow the South and the Jones School to be closed. So that's you're losing two schools and gaining one. We're going to save so much money on utilities and operational costs. We're going to be able to open the Wilkins School to preschool, which is going to expand that space. And I think all parents of young children know how extremely competitive it is for preschool nowadays. It's going to give us the opportunity to sell the South and Jones properties for either $5 to $10 million to the town, or use that land potentially for other municipal needs. The new school. Thank you.
Mr. Laurie, same question.
Thank you, Jack. So, first of all, if class sizes were such an important aspect of educating, and we picked up $14 million in subsidies in the last 5 years, We were at 18 students per class before the subsidies came in, and now we're at 25 students per classroom after those subsidies hit. Sometimes cause and effect you have to take a look at. And the other aspect is on this school project. People have the misconception that when you build this giant school that you're going to have all these classrooms. When you look at it, you're not gaining any more classrooms. It doesn't add more space. We already have 61 classrooms across both the Wilkins and the South School. You're not picking up more space. If you really cared about taking the classroom sizes and making them smaller, you'd build a big school like you're doing in the South and keep the Wilkins open right where it is. Then you'd have extra capacity. This project does not add capacity for students to do that. The other thing is the cost of this thing is ridiculous. I mean, you don't need a giant pinwheel in the woods to get this, to take care of our students. You need a healthy environment for the teachers to do their job. That's what you need. And the other aspect is, I can go on, is just about whether it's funded inside the budget or not. I'll talk about that more because I hope we have time to do that. I don't have enough time now, but that's coming next.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lurie. The next question will go to Ms. DeStefano first, and it's this. The group against the debt exclusion claims that the town can build a 300-student school for less money without raising taxes. Do you think this is a viable alternative? If so, how long would it take to come up with a feasibility study, design, and plan to build? And finally, given the rapidly escalating building costs, can you guarantee the school will cost less than the proposed school, given there will be no funding from the MSBA?
So if the April vote fails, it would not be cost effective to build a new school within our budget. That would, just to repair the South School, if we're just looking at that, you're looking at least $46 million. And then you have to have module schools. That's going to be $22 to $30 million. Right there, the costs are equal to a brand new school that we could have with the MSBA funding. And to have to ask the taxpayers to fit this into their budget, that's going to mean that it has to be paid some way. That means that there's going to be services that are going to need to be cut. There's going to have to be increased fees on our trash, on our water. There's so many unknown factors with that. Our building committee already looked into building a smaller school. It's more cost effective to do with the MSBA funds. Additionally, the Wilkins School is in need of desperate repair. That's another $45 million of repairs that school needs. To keep that even open is not cost effective to the taxpayer at all. Just by looking at these options, voting yes is the best option for our town for the long term.
Thanks, Ms. DeStefano. The question goes next to Mr. Lurie, or would you like me to repeat it, sir? Or you?
No, I'm totally good. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, so funding the school. This ballot question is not even needed. You don't have to do it. You can actually fund the entire project in the budget. And guess what? The MSBA could care less how you fund it. You can fund it with any source that is going to be reliable, which happens to be debt inside the budget. We're on the hook for it no matter what, whether it's debt exclusion, it doesn't matter. They don't care as long as it's covered. The town backs a bond. That's how it'll get paid for. It is $4 million a year over 30 years. That's what they budgeted for this project, this monstrosity with the MSBA grant. That money is short money compared to how much money is flowing into the budget. They have the money already. Matter of fact, here's a news flash that I'd like to share with everybody. You could vote yes or no and still have the MSBA project and have the entire rest of the amount of the school funded with the amount of money we have coming rolling into the budget. You could vote yes, and they could say, okay, let's trim a little bit back and give the taxpayers a break. You could vote no and have the entire thing funded anyway, just as it is. It would be a mistake. I think they need to keep the neighborhood school at the Wilkins. And then they also have to make a reasonable school in the South. And there's plenty of money for either idea. So the fact that it's so contentious in this town and dividing the town this way is ridiculous. We need to get back to fundamentals in funding this project.
Thank you. Next and last for this question, Ms. Sears.
Yeah, you said that there weren't enough classrooms, Mr. Laurie, but now you're calling it a monstrosity of a school. So I'm very confused a little bit. But we know we need to build this school. It's financially, it's crazy not to. Who would not want to take state money to help pay for the school? Yes, it's going to increase taxes by about $300 a year average. But what's it going to do for my home property, my property value? Without building the school, because I'm in the South School neighborhood, without building the school, my property value is going to go way down because children can't go to that school anymore. Anybody who's been in that school knows it. This is the right way for this town to go. And it makes me sad that people are thinking it's not, because we need to do this. This is why we're running for school committee, to better things for the students of this town. And one of the things that will better things for the students of this town is this school. It's going to make spaces. They'll have a library again. Do you know the South and the Hanson don't have a library? Let's bring a library back to these kids. Who didn't like going to the library? There'd be also be areas where they can hold STEM and STEAM and do all that stuff. And we know it's going to be better for electricity, heat, everything. It's going to be a great system. We need to say yes to this. This is not a pinwheel. This is a school that we need to build.
Thank you. The next question is a bit of a follow-up on this, and it will go to Mr. Laurie first. If the ballot question fails, modular classrooms are needed to accommodate the students from the South School as well as overcrowding at other schools. It is estimated that it will cost approximately $30 million, which will require a debt exclusion. Given that the life of these modular classrooms is approximately 10 years, borrowing costs are presumed to be high since you could not finance these over 30 years. Do you consider this as a practical alternative?
Thank you, Jack. First, I'll start by just saying the monstrosity is not needed because you're not getting a net new classroom, one net new classroom. You do not get any more space when you shut down the Wilkins from K through 5. You just don't. So I don't understand. You're consolidating two schools into one. So I prefer on the same number of classrooms to have them in the South and another set in the Wilkins area. That's the answer on that side. On this question about funding, none of it has to be a debt override. I call it a debt override. You know why? Because they're going 30 years on this thing. Most everybody in the town who has property are probably not going to see the end of it. It's a de facto override. That's why it's called a debt override. On the other side of it, modulars, because you're not getting new space from this project, so you're going to need modulars anyway. So I don't even understand the argument. We're talking about modulars when nobody's even advocating for that. We're talking about either getting this poorly designed project funded in the budget, which we can, or you throw away the bad design and get a smaller school and still fund it in the budget with no problems at all. I already know how much money is flowing into the budget, more than enough to cover the needs. We don't have to talk about insignificant number of library space, and none of that is necessary. We have plenty of money, so that's not the argument here.
Thank you, sir. The same question goes next to Ms. Sears.
I'm going to answer about the modulars, Jack. So the modulars, as you said, would at least be $30,000, and I question now with the increase in tariffs if it would be closer to $40 million now. Plus, you have to add in the busing of the students from the different places. The modulars are only good for 6 years. From what I heard from Dr. Baeta, is that there would be 6 classrooms added to each school. But now we also have to build something that attaches it to the school, because we live in New England. The students can't go outside, outside every day to go back and forth between the cafeteria, the gym, or wherever else they would need to in the main school. So modulars are not the answer. That also means redistricting of students. There's no more neighborhood schools because there isn't a school in everybody's neighborhood and kids are going to be bused everywhere. We know that the modulars are not the way to go. And what are we going to do in 10 years? So we're going to give this in 10 years to the next group of people who live in Stoughton, where building the new school is going to be even more expensive. And maybe the state won't be there to offer us any money to help us build a new school, because it's just kicking the can down the road. That's all we're doing. If we wait another 10, 15 years to build this school, we're going to. And we know that the middle school is also in some danger too. And so that's something we have to continue thinking about, the future of Stoughton. I want to see my property values go up. I want to see people be happy to move into Stoughton and attend our schools. And I think they are. And I want to continue that.
Thank you. And finally, same question for Ms. DeStefano.
So the modular classrooms, we're looking at $30 million. This additional cost cannot be financed without either bringing on another debt exclusion, where your tax is going to go up, or you're looking at cutting the budget on essential services to our community, increasing our fees on our trash, on our water. Our kids are going to have to be redistricted. They have to go to the already overcrowded classrooms in the Daw School and the Hanson School. There's limited space for lunch. There's limited space for recesses. There's limited space for bathrooms. It's just a logistical nightmare to have to do this. The Wilkinson Jones, if there is a failed vote, and I just want to be clear, is that if there's a failed vote, there is no new school. The other person here say that there is a possibility that the new school will come in a different way. That's absolutely false. If we say no, we're not getting those MSBA funds. They're going to give them away to another school that's been waiting. This is our second time around. No school in the history of MSBA has gotten the opportunity to get a second opportunity to get these funds. Stoughton is lucky that we're able to do this. I think it's very clear that this is going to give us modern schools. It's going to reduce our operating costs. It's going to avoid overcrowding. It's going to keep our services intact. Whether you're a fiscal conservative or an everyday citizen, it's clear that a yes vote is the best interest of our town and of our children. I'm asking everyone to make the smart choice and vote yes.
Thank you. The final question is addressed to Ms. Sears first. The superintendent has announced his intention to retire. What qualities do you want to see in a new school superintendent?
Sure. I mean, as an educator, I deal with superintendents all the time. The superintendent today has to have the back of his teachers, especially I think in today's society, sometimes parents come out hot. And we have to make sure that the superintendent, listens to both sides, takes everything in, and supports their teachers. They have to look at that. They have to be somewhat fiscally responsible to make sure that each classroom gets everything they need, that our students, our special needs students, are getting all the services they need, that our ELLs are receiving all the service they need. We need to make sure that we give them, I keep pushing that we need more counselors in the school, more paras in the school. All these things are going to be good. Test scores are great. We want high test scores, sure. AP's up in Massachusetts, it's great. But we also want a teacher and a student walk into that building every day and be happy to be there. And I think that's the best way to do that, is to have support from a superintendent. I mean, it's sad because we currently have that with Dr. Baeta, but he's leaving and we're going to have to find somebody else who has the love of Stoughton schools and wants to make sure that Stoughton schools succeed, and that we're offering the best things that we can for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Sears. Same question to Ms. DeStefano.
I first want to extend some gratitude to Dr. Baeta. He's been absolutely spectacular superintendent. I've heard him speak several times. I've met him a few times. Has really been an excellent speaker on behalf of the town of Stoughton, and for the students and for the teachers. He really is the essence of really what the superintendent that I want to bring in here. Someone who's going to be an advocate for the teachers and for the students. Someone who can also be political, because unfortunately, you know, it can be a political position when speaking to town meeting. Be able to verbalize the needs of our school, the needs of the teachers, the needs of the students. And to always, what I also liked about Dr. Baeta too is in the school committee meetings, he is very educational. You know, he is a teacher. You know, he really wants to educate everyone on why we're doing stuff, how it's beneficial, and the different options that we do have. So that is what I'm looking for as superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Stefano. And finally, Mr. Laurie.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, so the position of the superintendent, it's a three-legged stool. I learned a lot about the superintendent role when Dr. Rizzi was the superintendent. And the three-legged stool is basically buildings, curriculum, and the students. So you have to have the faculty and the student relationship working to progress, getting the kids through graduation, moving on to higher ed, military, into new companies that they might be involved with. So I think when it comes down to it, that this committee would set up policies and that the day-to-day operations to make sure that three-legged stool was being handled, the budget, the buildings and the students and curriculum, then I think you have a good working relationship. Good communication is going to be key. I think I agree that you got to have the ability to present yourself in large legislative scenarios. But what I would also like to see this person be able to do is come together with the municipal side. And I've been advocating, and I'm hopeful that we'll see a tri-commission come together in which the finance committee, the select board, and the schools will sit down and hammer out how to take our town forward with a lot of the pressures that we see, especially on the citizens of the town. We should be able to work as one town and not be divided or acting as an oasis with a big desert around us starving for resources.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. That concludes the school committee portion of our debate. Again, there are two open seats, and you've just heard from the three candidates for school committee, Jennifer Sears, Jillian DeStefano, and David Laurie. I want to thank the candidates for a spirited, respectful, and civil debate, and certainly would encourage folks in Stoughton who are watching this or hear about it to follow up with any further questions they may have or information they wish to obtain before the April 8th election. And now we move on to the moderator portion of the debate. And before we start, I simply want to mention that according to Stoughton's charter, quote, the moderator of the town meeting shall serve for a term of 2 years. They shall be moderator of all town meetings, except as otherwise provided by law, until their successor is qualified. Nominations for moderator and their election shall be as in the case of other elective town officers, and any vacancy in such office shall be filled by the deputy town moderator until the next regularly scheduled election. The moderator shall not have a vote on articles brought before the town meeting, except to create a tie vote or break a tie vote of town meeting representatives. And again, each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. Opening statements will be done in alphabetical order, and closing statements will be done in reverse alphabetical order. And the league has compiled the questions, and both candidates will be asked the same question. And I will rotate the order of who answers the questions first. Again, personal references about other candidates or specific people are out of order. The candidates for moderator are Vaughn Enochian and Robert Mullen, who is the incumbent. And I do not see Mr. Enochian on my screen. Is Mr. Enochian present?
I think he had to. Okay, that was there.
Is Mr. Enochian present? Ah, Mr. Enochian.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Mr. Enochian, sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm a little bit old school myself when it comes to tech. You have 1.5 minutes for your opening statement. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Vaughn Enochian, and I'm a candidate for town moderator. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Sharon Stoughton for the work that they put into making events like this happen. Democracy is important, and it's good that organizations are working on this. My wife, Katie, and I moved to Stoughton over 20 years ago, and we've been involved in the community since then in one way or another. We have 4 children, all of which attended Stoughton schools. I'm running for moderator because I'm in my 9th year on the finance committee, and by charter, I'm not eligible to continue on finance committee, and I'd like to continue in my public service to the town of Stoughton and town meeting. I'd like to bring some changes to town meetings, such as getting information to town meeting representatives in a way that they're going to want to read it before town meeting, which will result in better preparation before town meeting, which should help the process. I would also like to give town meeting representatives the option to opt out of receiving the paper warrant book if they choose to do so. Town meeting representatives should have the right to request this. If elected as moderator, I would also like to have a moderator website where residents could track the progress of articles as they move through the process. Thank you very much for the time, and thanks again for what you do.
Right. Thank you, sir. And now, Mr. Mullen, you have 1.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank you, Jack, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My name is Bob Mullen, and I'm your town moderator, and I'm running for re-election on Tuesday, April 8th. Due to the time allowed, I'm reading from a prepared statement. I am honored to be your town moderator, and I'd like to continue for another term. I lived in Stoughton for over 36 years, and I'm a volunteer on several nonprofits in town. My wife and I raised my son and daughter in Stoughton. Stoughton is our home. I have the experience to be your town moderator, which includes formerly a longtime town meeting rep, served on the select board in the past, former deputy town moderator for a distinguished and longtime serving town moderator, Howie Hansen, first elected moderator in April 2020, which was the year of COVID. Some of the concepts I implemented as your moderator: developed the idea of using a virtual table, which is an online table to retrieve town meeting documents electronically, and you can download them from anywhere. Introduce the concept of the consent agenda. The concept saves time. And I also introduced hybrid public hearings for the standing committees, meaning town reps and the public have the option to participate either in person or online, which provides for more participation and convenience. You can call in from anywhere if you want to even use your cell phone. I do also plan on introducing a more creative consent agenda approval process for the upcoming town meeting. And I am also working with the town council to implement a new code of conduct for the finance committee appointees that are appointed by the moderator. I I have a lot of other topics I would like to discuss during this forum if time allows. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mullen. The first question goes to Mr. Mullen.
Sure.
Do you believe that the issues caused by certain Finance Committee appointees in the past year were handled in a timely and appropriate manner? And how would you address similar challenges as town moderator in the future?
Well, that's a very interesting question. We know we have some challenges on the Finance Committee appointees. It's up to it have to be a little tougher chairperson on the Finance Committee. I think also if they do violate the open meeting law, people should file a complaint against them. But I think they have the right to constitutionally protected free speech. I've had a couple of people mention to me and even email me as town moderator about trying to remove them. But I checked with town council, and as you know, Jack, as a former moderator, you have to adhere to the town council in most cases. And he pretty much has told me that they have the right of constitutionally protected free speech, and you would have some problems removing them. They have that right to, once you appoint somebody, they have the right to that appointment. And it'd be very difficult unless they violate a law, commit a crime, threaten people, to actually remove them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Mr. Nokian, same question.
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. Do you believe the issues caused by certain Finance Committee appointees this past year were handled in a timely and appropriate manner? And how would you address any similar challenges as town moderator in the future?
The issues that I believe you're referring to were originally, some of them were originally sent to me on the Finance Committee. And I referred that to the town moderator. How that was handled behind the scenes, I'm not exactly sure. If I were moderator in the future, I would have a discussion with those members if there were any issues and talk to them about whatever the behavior is that you're referring to.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Next question goes to Mr. Enochian first. Do you plan to limit multiple comments by the same people at town meeting if you are elected?
Multiple comments, I would allow everyone to speak on it, but we wouldn't have never-ending discussion on them, if that's what you mean by multiple comments. I would limit the discussion and comments to some degree, but allow everyone to get their voice heard there.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Same question for Mr. Mullen. Do you plan to limit multiple comments by the same people at town meeting if reelected?
Yes, we have rules at town meeting. Currently, the rules are, which could change at the next organizational town meeting, but the current rules are you have 2 technical questions that you can ask during the technical question period, and then you have pro and con debate or comments, and you have 3 minutes for the comments that you can make. So during that time frame, during those rules, you can ask. I'm not sure what you mean by multiple comments, but I'll take it as you asked the question. They can ask their 2 technical questions, and then when the time comes up for pro and con debate, they have 3 minutes. I would not allow that same person after they make their 3 minutes in pro and con debate or comments to come back on that same article. I would not allow that. It would be against the rules. I would rule the person out of order. They would have to take a seat, and hopefully they graciously would just sit down and wait for the next article to come up, and follow the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. The next question, and this will go to Mr. Mullen first. Do you believe that the town moderator should appoint a majority of the finance committee? And if not, what proposal, or excuse me, do you believe the moderator should appoint the majority of the finance committee? That's the question.
Well, that's the town charter. Town charter says of the 17 members of the finance committee, the moderator does appoint up to 9 of them. I like to see it change myself. It just during the past year, we had some discussions with the finance committee members. I like to throw it out there to the charter review committee. I wouldn't even mind if appoint few of them, maybe 3 or 4 by the moderator, and then have even the rest of them at large. Have the people of Stoughton vote them in, like some other towns do that. They can run for that office. If moderator appoints 9, maybe have 5 of them or even 6 of them run at large, and that way they make their case to the people of Stoughton and the community at large what they're going to do on the finance committee. And the moderator should have some appointments to the finance committee, but I'll leave that up to the town charter, the committee for town charter, to make that decision. It's just not my decision. It's the town charter committee, I should say the charter committee, that will discuss that, hold hearings if they want to, and put it before a town meeting, and leave it up to the town meeting members, the wisdom of the town meeting members to make their choice, make their votes on that. So I'm not opposed to that. Whatever the charter committee would like to do, I'm in favor of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Mr. Enochian, same question. Do you believe the town moderator should appoint the majority of the finance committee?
That's the current system now. I don't believe that there's ever been any move from charter review to change that part of the charter at any time in my recollection. So that's the current standing the way it is. I don't really have any problem with it. That system now. I think it's important to make good appointments, though, if the moderator is going to have the bulk of appointments to the finance committee. But like I said, there's been no move by the charter review in history that I know of to change that. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, sir. The next question will go to Mr. Enochian first. Most towns have warrant books the size of a booklet. Why does Stoughton publish a 2-volume warrant with some individual articles having over 100 pages of backup material? Do you believe this is appropriate? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I believe that it is appropriate to hand out all of that information to the town meeting reps, because the information is important to make decisions. And over time, the town meeting reps have requested this type of information. The recent book or books from the finance committee with the warrant, there have been a book split between where there's a warrant for one book and then the backup for a second book. On the finance committee, I've worked toward trying to request from town meeting reps if they would prefer to get this book digitally, or perhaps only get the warrant book and not the backup book. But one of the reasons why the books are so large is because of all the backup material, and town meeting reps have historically wanted the information. So it's been a move at the finance committee to make sure everyone gets the information they want. I would like to try to have it so that town meeting reps could make a decision as to whether or not they want the backup book at all. Some people prefer it all digital. But that's the reason why the town of Stoughton has that much information in the book.
Right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mullen, same question.
Thank you, Jack. I think you have to kind of look at the whole picture. It's a little more complicated than just having a small booklet. Stoughton has a lot of articles compared to other towns. Now, Stoughton is a representative town meeting. Someone might look at a neighboring town, Easton. That's an open town meeting. They have a small, nice little booklet. I just did some research because this comes up every year. I mean, I agree with Mr. Enochian. He and I talked about it, and it'd be nice to have or allow the town meeting reps to electronically download that booklet instead of mailing out, a large voluminous book. But it really comes down to how many articles too. Back in 2023, town of Stoughton had 74 articles. I don't know how many articles you had, Jack, in your town, but we had 74 that year. In 24, we had 56 articles. So it depends upon how many articles. And it also depends upon the complexity of those articles. So it's difficult to have one piece of paper on those articles because the town meeting reps want information. And they deserve the information to make that informed choice at town meeting. Now, whether it comes electronically or hard copy, I agree with Mr. Enochian. It should come electronically if the town meeting reps want that choice. But not every town meeting rep has the capability to provide it in digital form. I guess that's the end of my time, but thank you very much, Jack, for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Final question, and this will go to you first, Mr. Mullen. What overall changes, if any, do you propose to the conduct of town meeting, and particularly with regard to making town meeting more efficient?
Oh, that's a great question. It always comes up every year. How do we make town meeting more efficient? Number one, maybe more of a training session up front, like we have a lot of town meeting reps running this time around on the April 8th election. We'll have to have a training session, hopefully, for them if I get reelected. Might take place at the organizational town meeting. I'm not sure. We'll have to work out the details. But also informational sessions. We used to have them a couple of years ago with a prior town manager to inform the town meeting reps of the different articles, especially the capital articles or the more involved articles. And I think also we should have some better rules. We can talk about having better rules to make town meeting go faster. But there's one thing I would like to say is town meeting members do have the right to move the question. And that should never be taken away from them. If they want to continue the debate on a particular article, it's their town meeting. It's their right to continue that debate on that article. If they want more people to come up and talk and debate that article, that's their business. It's the wisdom of the town meeting reps that should rule the day. It's their town meeting. If the town meeting reps want to stop debate, they move the question, debate's ended. We take a vote on that. Yeah, obviously, Jack, we need a 2/3 vote. That stops debate on that article. And if they keep doing that for different articles, that will, have town meeting, end quicker instead of, generally we do 4 or 5 nights, sometimes even 6 nights, depending upon how many articles. But if you have 74 articles, it's difficult to get through them all. I know my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Enochian, same question.
Well, I think for first-time town meeting reps who've been maybe newly elected, I think perhaps almost like an informational meeting with the moderator to go over the process might be helpful, so they're aware of the process, the steps, how to go about getting things done and asked at town meeting. I think the other part would be to make sure that people get the information in advance in multiple formats if possible. I mean, you can get it in digital and paper. I think the more information they have, many of the questions that people ask are probably already answered in the backup material. If we could get people to get the opportunity to read that earlier, perhaps through digital means, or maybe they could watch the hearings, and a lot of questions are answered there. But I think those are a couple of things I'd like to do, and put the information out on the website too, all the backup information, and have people familiar with the process so that when they get there, they're ready to go. But thank you for the question.
You're very welcome. That concludes the question and answer section. And now we'll move to closing statements. Mr. Mullen, you first. You have 1.5 minutes to make your closing statement.
Okay, thank you, Jack, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event this evening. I ask for your vote in support on Tuesday, April 8th to continue as your town moderator. I ask you to go to the polls and please consider Bob Mullen for a town moderator. I've been a member of this town meeting for I don't know how long, which would include my time as town meeting rep, deputy town moderator, and as your town moderator. If you know me or just watch me, I believe in using technology and innovation to make things more accessible and to encourage more participation. I keep moving the needle forward. I have the experience being first trained as a deputy town moderator, standing up at the podium. It's the training that is invaluable. Look, some of the issues, including shortening the number of nights that town meeting goes, is great, but it depends upon the town meeting reps. Sometimes they want to keep going, sometimes they don't. But the most important thing also is to use technology as much as possible for the preparation, document retrieval, public hearings, and the meeting itself. You know, I don't think we should go backwards but forward. You know, as moderator, I schedule public hearings as hybrid meetings, which means in person and online to encourage wider participation by the public. I do that to include people to call in, even to call in and to make things work more efficiently. And I also like to say, I know I'm running out of time here, so let me just get right to the end. I ask for your vote on Tuesday, April 8th. Please vote Bob Mullen for town moderator. And thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Mr. Enochian, you have a minute and a half to make your final statement to the voters.
Well, thank you very much for that. Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, Sharon Stoughton, for hosting this event. It's greatly appreciated by myself, I'm sure all the candidates, and I'm also sure by the residents who get the opportunity to hear this. My name is Vaughn Enochian, and I'm asking for your vote on April 8th, Tuesday, April 8th, for the position of town moderator. I'm in my 9th year of the Finance Committee, and my time in the Finance Committee, we have come up with digital warrants and distribution of materials through electronic means. And I'd like to continue that sort of thing as moderator and help to get people more involved with the town meeting and get the information to them in a timely fashion so they can make good decisions for the town and move this town forward. I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to thank the viewers for watching. Have a wonderful evening. And once again, my name is Vaughn Enochian, and I'm asking for your vote on April 8th. Thanks again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This now concludes our forum. And again, I'd like to thank the moderator candidates for a civil and spirited debate. We hope you found this candidate forum informative. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Sharon Stoughton, we thank you for attending and want to, first of all, encourage you to seek out more information on the election. If you care to do so, you can visit stoughton.org for that information. Election day again is April 8th, and we encourage you also to visit LWVSS.org to obtain more information about the League of Women Voters of Sharon Stoughton, and would encourage you to join. The League is here to encourage our democratic process, to encourage open and fair and free debate and discussion among candidates. Again, thank you to all of the candidates, and we again would remind folks that Election Day is April 8th. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.